Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lucky Duck Quack, a show run by Lucky Duck Games. We are a board game publisher that focuses on turning digital games into amazing tabletop experiences. We are on episode 2 today. I am joined with my co-host, Philip, our creative director at Lucky Duck Games. And my name is Aaron Dean. I'm social media manager of Lucky Duck Games. So thank you, Philip, for joining me today.
Not a problem. Pleasure is all mine. Hi, Erin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm perfectly fine. It's a snowy day or even almost night in Warsaw. So great
Yeah,
moment to chat with a mug of hot coffee to chat about great board games.
I love it. I love it. So in today's episode, guys, we are going to be talking about the Chronicles of Crime expansions. So we're going to just dive right in here. So Chronicles of Crime has been our best-selling title to date. It's been translated in over 14 different languages and sold out in 2 weeks in the US, which is crazy. We've been super pleased with that, and we are overwhelmed with the positive feedback we've been receiving. How do you feel about this, Philip?
Oh, it's really awesome. It was it's not only US. We are already sold out in France, almost sold out in Poland, and the feedback is really great. So we are super happy, and I guess it's very important to say that it's a really big group of people who worked towards this success of Chronicles. So it's not only our Lucky Duck team and David Sicurel, the creator of the whole system and of the game, but all the writers, illustrators, translators, proofreaders. It's like 30 people around the world who worked for it to become true. So yeah, we are very happy, and at the same time we're still working on the expansions and for new scenarios and additional stuff and on the next game. So yeah, it's a lot going on in the company.
That's amazing, and it is really a well-oiled machine that really gets these games out to our fans. So there are 2 expansions coming out for Chronicles of Crime.
Exactly.
Yep, and can you tell us a little bit about the Red View expansion and what the theme is about and the context?
Yeah, sure, exactly. So, welcome to Redview, first expansion to Chronicles of Crime. It is written and designed by Guillaume Maison, the French designer. He did, for example, Not Alone, a great game. I'm not sure if you heard about this one. So, Guillaume joined David on this expansion, and he wrote all the 4 scenarios because the expansion consists of 4 scenarios which are connected. So it's a one long story. It's kind of campaign. So a little bit of what we already had in the base game with Power Behind campaign. Now we're gonna have a 4 scenarios campaign in Welcome to Redview. And the story is that we are in the 80s in the small American town called Redview. And the twist is that we are not policemen anymore. We are a bunch of teenagers from the local high school, and we call ourselves the Redview Mystery Gang. And some weird things start to happen in the city, some paranormal things. I don't want to spoil you guys a lot of the stories, but it's a little like like this TV series Stranger Things. So there are some really weird things happening around in the town, and the adults, they don't care somehow. So we, the Redview Mystery Gang, we need to take care of it. So that's the promise of the story of Welcome to Redview.
That I love the story. I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things, which is, it sounds very similar as in regards to the theme and kind of the nature of the game.
Yes,
Which is
of course
also
the story. Of course, the story is completely different. Though
right.
what we have here is exactly as you said. It's a similar feeling. Yeah, so, and
Right.
what
It
was
gives you the
the?
same vibe for sure. It gives
Yeah,
you the same
exactly.
vibe.
Exactly. And the goal of designers, the goal of Guillaume and David was to create this expansion to have much more RPG feel to the game. So it's not only, solving the crime, it's not only deduction, but of course it's again a fully story-driven game. So the story is most important thing, but it's even more important here than in Chronicles of Crime, I would say.
Definitely. Now, this expansion almost wants to be an RPG. What RPG elements does it have, would you say?
Yeah, so we have few. First of all, we are not longer policemen. We are a band of group of teenagers, but each player has its own character. So at the beginning of the game, we are picking our characters. So let me show you how does it look. So an example is Jeff here. So each character has three different stats. So we have fitness, speech, and mind. And
Mm-hmm.
the characters are different. So the first challenge during the game is to make a team. So we need to pick a good combination of characters which we can feel familiar with. So there is this role-playing element, but also we are thinking about their stats and we want to be strong. So, for example, if someone will pick Victoria, which has free speech, which is the maximum possible stat for the speech, then probably we need someone who's gonna be fit to help in different kinds of situation during the gameplay. So that's the first very important RPG element of Redview expansion. Second is tests. So in Redview, for example, when we visit a new location, it's not like in Chronicles of Crime that, okay, there is one or two characters, we can just start interrogating them or watch the VR scenes. Of course, we do have VR scenes again, but in different situation, we may actually choose how we want to approach it. So, for example, let's say that we are outside the town and we need to enter some building surrounded by a very high fence. So we can either test our fitness skill to try to go over the fence, or we can look the way around and try to enter from the back using our mind, or we can talk to the guard and using our speech skill, trying to let us in. So this is a very cool feature because first of all we need to discuss it as a team, because some of those tests and situation usually there are some better and worse ideas how to approach the situation. So we need to be smart and pick one which suits our idea about the situation and how we want to do it. And then we perform a test. So we have a dice rolling mechanism. And if we fail the test, then we need to look for another solution. If we pass the test, then we have some special outcome.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, you don't see a lot of dice and storytelling games. What would you say? What was the biggest thing on making that work, that element work?
Yeah, so yeah, you're right that it was a challenge because story-driven games, they usually just there is one or two paths which you follow, you make some decisions on the way, but it's not like many different possibilities. And when you have such a test mechanism and dice rolling and some luck involved, then looking from the designer or developer point of view, we may have a potential problem because what would what will happen if, for example, players will lose with all the tests? Do they lose the game or do they need to start from the scratch? So we needed to come up with some smart system, and I hope the one Guillaume and David came up is really good. So it's very simple. So we have each player rolls exactly one die, and to have a success, you add basically you add your value of, for example, if it's a speech test, you add value of your speech statistic, which is, for example, 3. You add it to your die roll. If you have 5 or more, you have 1 success. If you have 7 or more, you have 2 successes. And we need as many successes to pass the test as the number of players. So it's a very simple but cool mechanism, which also takes care of scalability. So no matter if you play solo or if you play with 4 players, it works similarly well. And the interesting part of this system is that we have energy tokens. So as you can see on the character sheet, let's take a look at Jeff. His stats are pretty low, so he has only one of each statistic, but he has 4 energy. And the energy tokens look like chocolate bars. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, you can eat a chocolate bar to have energy and to be able to re-roll your dice, but you can run out of your energy. So basically, if Jeff, he has low stats, but he has 4 energy tokens, and if all are used, then he cannot perform any rerolls till the end of the day. So at the start of each new in-game day, we are able to refresh all of our energy tokens. So I guess, our mom is giving us a new chocolate bars in the morning before we leave to school, so we have a new energy. And this system works really well. It's very easy to understand, but the choices we make during the game are still very interesting.
I love the idea of using dice in a storytelling game. I have never played any RPGs before, and I'm really interested in getting into that. And this seems like a good entry point of almost merging two ideas, which seems very cool. Now, what would you say is like the biggest challenge that you had to face when developing this game or this expansion?
Yeah. So basically, there were two, I think. One was connected with these dice rolling mechanisms. So we needed to be sure that we won't have a dead ends or the situation I described before. If we fail a few tests, what's going on then? So we needed to be sure that in each scenario and in each situation, you have different ways to, if for example, if we failed completely to enter this building outside the town, which we wanted to, there is some different way in this scenario to get the same information or to meet the character which was inside this building. So maybe at some other moment during the day or night we can meet him somewhere else, or we can get the same information from other person. Or some of the tests are not only if you failed it, then you can perform them again, but you're losing in-game time or you're losing your energy tokens. So we needed to be sure that there is always different way to do something. I guess the second challenge was connected with the theme of the game, with the theme of Redview expansion. So I would say in general, if we have some paranormal activity theme, it's a little opposite to logic deduction. So in this in Redview, we wanted to be sure that part of the story it's again similar when we talk about the in-game logic, like in Chronicles of Crime. So we connect evidence, we interrogate people, we connect the pieces of the puzzle to find a solution, but also there are some plots with this paranormal stuff, and then we need to base our choices also on our intuition and what we discuss, what possibly could happen, and we discuss it as a group. So it's not only like this logical investigation, but we have this other aspect of the game. So connection of these two required requires some additional steps and playtesting, but so far looking at the feedback of the people from the beta testing, I hope we succeeded.
That's great. It does sound like a challenge, like you said, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. And playtesting always pays off. That's for sure. So let's talk briefly about the next expansion. So we talked a little bit about the Redview expansion. Welcome to Redview. But let's talk about the Noir expansion. What is that about? And can you give us like a brief introduction to what that's about?
Yeah, sure. So Noir is completely different than Redview, and the idea was to create something because it's an expansion. So to create something for experienced players. So I would say that in my opinion, the biggest advantage of the Chronicles of Crime is how actually easy to start playing this game is, how streamlined it is. So it's accessible for basically to anyone. So it's not like, okay, it's a hardcore experience like Sherlock Holmes consulting detective that you need to, okay, I need to spend 5 or 6 hours to play a simple scenario. There's going to be tons of reading. No, you just switch the app and you start playing. Though with Noir, we wanted to give our players a bigger challenge. And the theme of the game, it's we are in the 50s in LA. So how Seth Johnson, our US proofreader and editor, described it perfectly, saying that it's shadows under bright California sun. So we are Private Eye, a detective called Sam Spader, and we need to basically each scenario is separate, so it's not a campaign, and we need to solve some mystery. We always have a client who comes to our office asking for help, and then we start playing. So the general feel of this expansion is much darker than Chronicles of Crime. There's a lot of very really amazing stories. So there are mafia guys, movie stars, corruption, corrupted cops. So much the theme is much harder and much darker than in Chronicles of Crime.
And there's an introduction of actions, correct?
Excuse me?
There's the introduction of actions and how you can... Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So special actions, it's exactly what we wanted to have this higher level of difficulty in general in this expansion. So Stéphane Anquetil, the writer and designer of this expansion, together with David Sicurel, they came up with a really cool idea of special actions, because we are not longer in 21st century like in Chronicles of Crime, so we don't have our 4 experts we can call at any time and ask for help. So we cannot call our hacker or or criminologist to just check something online. We need to do it ourselves. And we are a private eye, we are not policemen, and it makes a huge difference. Because first of all, our goal is to solve the case and to report to our client to earn our money. So we also can play dirty, because it's a dirty world. So we also can play dirty. So we have 4 special actions, and in different situations, in different locations, during different situations, we can approach them using them. So first of all, we can intimidate people. So if we are interrogating someone and we feel, okay, this guy probably is hiding some piece of information, or he's just lying to us, so we can push harder, we can intimidate the character. So then we scan the intimidation card, and the outcome, we are not sure what's the outcome gonna be, and we need to be smart, because, for example, it's probably not the best idea to intimidate a mafia boss when we talk to him at his place. But sometimes it's very useful. Sometimes the result of our bad choice may be really painful for players, like losing lots of time, or even in some cases losing the whole scenario and needed to start from the scratch. So we need to be careful. Second possible special action is bribing. So at the start of each scenario, we receive some amount of money from our client, and then we can spend this money bribing people. So if we are sure that they're hiding something, we can pay them basically to give us some informations or items. Third, and of course, we can run out of money, and there are some moments in each scenario when we can earn more money if we're smart, but if we run out of money, we cannot bribe anymore. And third possible action is shadowing. So if we have a suspect, but we cannot push him to tell us anything, we can just stay at the place, hide somewhere in the shadows, and watch people what they're doing when they think we're not watching them. And in some cases, it might be a very good technique for our private eye. but it's really time consuming. Shadowing is really time consuming, so we cannot use it too often. And fourth and last special action is breaking in. So if some locations are closed or some characters are not letting us in, we can just break in. But again, we need to be careful, because if we stay inside too long, or if someone will come, then we can even get arrested or beaten up. So we need to be very, very smart with using the actions, though they are very powerful. And it's again a very interesting choice for the group of players when and how we should use those to be better in the scenario.
Yeah, so it sounds like the special actions require some strategy and communication among the players to best use them, and not to waste them and, use them at a better time later, for example. Now,
Yeah, exactly.
was creating the special actions the most challenging part of developing this Noir expansion, or was it something else? Was it something else in the development that was a little bit more challenging?
So yeah, you're right. It was connected with the special actions, but it's not like about special action itself, but rather about this level of difficulty. Finding a sweet spot about the level of difficulty when we have such a powerful but very costly actions was not the easiest task. And the stories of Noir also, because the Stéphane Quetil, the author of Noir, is a very skillful writer. So, for example, he's the author of one of the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective expansion. So, Stéphane's stories are, you always have few different stories inside one, few plots interconnected. So, it's the level of difficulty for players. It's really significantly higher. So it was very interesting to playtest those scenarios, but also to look very carefully for some moments which may be really overwhelming. So there's always this dilemma, because we need to satisfy the players who want to have a bigger challenge at the game, but at the same time, if someone really got stuck at some point and cannot move forward, it's very frustrating. So we needed to take care of these moments and these elements of the scenario. So I guess working on the level of difficulty was probably the biggest challenge of Noir.
Very interesting. I guess to wrap up, both Welcome to Redview and the Noir expansion, which are, going to be coming out soon. Let's talk about, our favorite detective or RPG or comic. And I can go first. So, and then we'll see what Philip's favorite detective game or RPG or comic is. So if we're not just limited to board games, my favorite detective game growing up was this point and click computer game called it was geared towards females, but it was called Nancy Drew. And who is this? They have books about Nancy Drew. They had these computer games that I really, really enjoyed, and solving the mystery. Like, for example, there was one where this clock tower, there's this mystery with this clock tower. There was one where I think it was called The White Wolf at Icicle Creek. That was a really good one. And anyway, I just really enjoyed those, really enjoyed the mystery aspect of it. I've always been a big fan of mystery games and detective games. So that's probably my favorite. And you can still get them. They're available on Mac and PC, and they're making new ones still. So it's a series that's been computer game series that's been around for a long time. But I really enjoyed that as a kid. And still do. So what is your favorite RPG comic or
Awesome. I
game?
need to check this one out.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't so popular in Europe, so maybe that's why I haven't heard about it. But I was thinking about it, and actually I'm staying on the board game side. So my favorite mystery game definitely is Mr. Jack, which is an excellent asymmetric two-player game. It was one of the very few first games, modern board games I tried. It was like 10 years ago. And I remember that we were playing a lot of it with my wife, like, evening after evening. It's really amazing. It's not very hard to learn, but it's very deep. And it's always this very interesting tension till the very end, who's going to win. So my choice would be Mr. Jack.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about that. One of the board game reviewers I follow most closely is Game Boy Geek, and that's one of his favorite games of all time is Mr. Jack. So I definitely need to check that out because I think
It's
I'd
awesome.
enjoy it. It sounds like I'd enjoy it. But anyway, to wrap this episode of Lucky Duck Quack up, we're going to talk about one last thing, and that's what board game have you brought to the table that has really surprised you or made a mark for you? So I'll go first, and this is a no-brainer for me. I recently have played, I think I got it like 2 weeks ago, and I've already played it like 5 times, but it's Treasure Island. Published by, I think it's Madagot. Is that how you pronounce it? Madagot. So Treasure Island just came out. The artist is Vincent Dutrait. He's an amazing artist. The gameplay is very solid, very fun. It's almost a one versus all game, but all the rest of the people are pirates looking to get the treasure first. So it's competitive, yet there's one person that is giving clues to where it's at. And if they take too long, that one person who has been giving the clues will actually get to escape from the prison and get the treasure for himself and race to the treasure because he knows where it's at. So it's a treasure hunt game where you actually draw on the board. You'll do searches by marking.
That's the awesome part. We played it at our Lucky Duck Con a few weeks ago, and it's a really neat idea to draw on the board, and that you have these visual kinds of clues and the areas where the treasure may be hidden becoming smaller and smaller during the game and tension is growing. It's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, I love the aspect that you're just continually drawing more and more searches, more and more circles on the board, and you're right on the tail of finding it. It's a very cool feeling. And I've only played as Long John Silver, which is the person giving the clues, and I love that side of things. But I'm interested to try it out on the other side where you don't have any idea where it's at, and you have to rely on the other person to give you clues and all that. So that would be my pick, Treasure Island.
Good choice, Erin. From the games I played recently, I enjoyed a lot Gizmos, which is come on game with marbles. It has very splendory feeling, I would say. So it's an engine building game, like a race for victory points. It has some very cool ideas about building this engine of machines and converting different types of marbles into the other and finding the best engine to score victory points. And second one, which I enjoyed a lot, was Azul Stained Glass of Sintra, which I finally had occasion to play after buying it in SM this year. I guess it's even better than the first Azul. It's slightly more gamers game, so you have more control over what's going on in the game. And so I liked it a lot. But actually, my pick was the game I enjoyed the most from the games I played recently. Is not the new game, but we came back to Near and Far, a game by Ryan Laukat, published last year actually, and I enjoyed it really, really, really a lot. It's such a great game, and I guess for sure the best combination of a story element and very solid Euro mechanisms so far. So for me, no one done it better so far than Ryan Laukat with Near and Far. It's really, really great game. So that would be my choices.
His whole series of games is great. Above and Below and Islebound and yeah, or is it Islebound? Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. I played Islebound, though I think Near and Far is even better.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard that Near and Far is one of his best games that has come out from Red Raven Games. Well, thank you guys for watching. This again, it was episode 2 of Lucky Duck Quack. We will continue making more episodes on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe so you get notifications when we go live and when we schedule them. So thank you so much for joining, Philip, and thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.